How's it going, guys? Welcome back to my channel and time for another episode of Ranked, a series on my channel in which we take a look at a collection of films, typically a franchise or a series of films, and I rank them from my least favourite to my all-time favourite. And so with Terminator Dark Fate now being released in cinemas, and is it the true successor to the Terminator franchise that we're all hoping it could be? I thought it'd be a brilliant time for every Terminator movie ranked. Now, the Terminator franchise is one of those film series that has some of the most euphoric highs, with some films in this series being considered masterpieces and some of the best films of all time. And then you also have some films that really did miss the mark entirely. And kicking off this list is actually, in my opinion, the only objectively bad Terminator film.
I've been waiting for you.
Terminator Genisys, I to this day, I don't know why it is spelt with that Y in Genesis and why it's not Genesis with the E. But honestly, at this point, that is the least of this film's worries. Now, in the build to Terminator Genisys, even James Cameron himself jumped on the marketing bandwagon and was like, this is going to revitalise the franchise. This is going to harken back to what we love of T1 and T2. It wasn't. It really wasn't. What this film kind of did is you have John Connor and Kyle Reese in the future fighting against the machines, and it's that moment where John Connor has to send Kyle Reese back to meet up with Sarah and protect her because they've sent a Terminator to come back. You know the story. It's Terminator 1. It's the general premise of Terminator 1. But time travel shit happens. And this is my whole thing with time travel, that unless you really know what you're doing and you know the ins and outs of time travel, don't even start on a screenplay. Just don't, because you're going to write yourself into corners that you're not going to be able to get out of, and it's just going to become one huge mess. And that is what Terminator Genisys is. Sure, there are some cool things, such as the recreations of the first Terminator. And I don't mind the fact that John Connor comes back and he's been infected as a Terminator through Skynet. But the trailers ruin that by showing it in the trailer itself. And yeah, the movie is just plotless. Emilia Clarke just didn't really fit the role of Sarah Connor. Arnold is trying to make his way through the movie without getting as much flack as possible. And Jai Courtney as Kyle Reese, again, Jai Courtney's an alright actor, he's fine, but when this movie came out, it was in a period where they were trying to push Jai Courtney as your big main Hollywood star, and he just never was that. But yeah, Terminator Genisys just... yeah, not good. Terminator Salvation isn't a great movie. It's a really by-the-numbers post-apocalyptic war film that had a lot of potential in actually giving us a feature-length film set after Judgment Day. All of the Terminator films up until this point had been trying to stop Judgment Day from happening, but what Terminator Salvation gave us is right. Judgment Day's happened. Let's follow John Connor on a mission to try and stop the machines, which could have worked. You got Christian Bale as John Connor. Yeah, that didn't turn out fantastically.
The f are you doing? Are you professional or not? Yes, I am. Do I can walk around and rip that? No, shut the fuck up, Bruce. Do I want? No.
And again, in a similar respect to Jai Courtney, Sam Worthington's an alright actor, but again, when this came out in 2009, Hollywood just seemed to want to position Sam Worthington as your next big leading man, and he just didn't quite have it. He didn't quite have that charisma and charm. And what you get in Terminator Salvation is fine. I think if you look at it through the lens of just a very typical post-apocalyptic war film, but when you do look at it through a Terminator lens, that's when major continuity errors flare up, and it just reveals itself as a bit plotless. I don't hate it, it just wasn't that great. At number 4 is Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, which I know the Terminator sequels do get a lot of criticism for just not being very good movies. I think Terminator Rise of the Machines is actually quite a good movie. I just feel like it's always going to have a difficult time when you're having to follow T1 and T2. And so when this movie came out and it just kind of under-delivered on everyone's expectations, people just lost control. It's okay. It's pretty much what we've come to expect at this point, of just a very general cat and mouse game. Arnold's fine, although you can kind of tell that he's not as interested in the story this time. And some of the action set pieces are pretty entertaining. There's a road chase, a street chase in which the TX has gotten control of like a fire truck, and there's this ladder, and they're smashing into building. It's chaos, it's relentless, it's what the Terminator movies should be. And then it kind of gets itself bogged down in the whole Skynet thing, and we start repeating similar tropes of what we've seen in T1 and T2 already. It does end, interestingly, obviously, with Judgment Day happening. They can't prevent it, it's just a case of running from it, which I thought was a neat little twist. It was a bit unexpected, but as a movie, as a whole, it's fine to watch. You're entertained, but it's not one that is going to leave you with that like major impact of seeing T1 or T2 for the first time. And now we get on to the top 3. Now, these 3 do represent the creme de la creme of this franchise. In my eyes, they are all equally fantastic movies. But in at number 3 is one that I think may surprise a lot of people. Now, I can already feel some of you wanting to hurl something at the screen that you're watching this video on, but hear me out for a second. Terminator, the Terminator, is a fantastic movie. It is relentless, chaotic, start to finish, the pace is through the roof. But it was made in 1984, and some elements of it don't really hold up all that well. And I'm not just talking about the visual effects here, because it's, in my eyes, it's a little harsh to try and critique the visual effects as not being sort of as amazing as the ones you see today. Like, for 1984, they were groundbreaking, but you do look at it and you think, oh, that's a little dated now. I just mean in terms of story structure, it's very by the numbers. And I feel like not everything is explained as well as it could have been. I watched Terminator 2 first. That was my introduction to the Terminator franchise. So when I watched The Terminator for the first time, I understood all the references to Skynet and who Kyle Reese was and who Sarah Connor was and what the Terminators were. But I think watching this for the first time, for a significant portion of this film, you're going to be left kind of in a bewildered state as to what's going on. Everything then does eventually get explained, but I think for like the first half an hour, it's kind of tricky to piece together what is going on. But that being said though, The Terminator is such a revolutionary film for what it did for the sci-fi genre, catapulted Arnold Schwarzenegger to stardom level, and James Cameron as well. This kind of gave him his big budget blockbuster career, and The Terminator is such a fantastic, gritty, dirty film, and yeah, it's cool. It's a cool film. Okay, I have only seen Dark Fate the once, but for me, this film just embodied everything that I love about the Terminator franchise. The action is mind-blowing, it's relentless, it's chaotic, and one thing that I've always noticed about the Terminator films, at least the good Terminator films, is that they're cool. They are cool movies. T1, so retro cool. T2 is badass, it's hardcore, it's cool. T3 is really trying to be cool, and it succeeds in some ways. And then when you get onto Salvation, Salvation's kind of like trying way too hard to be cool, and really going for that hard and tough edge who thinks they're just,
Oh, a war film was so cool.
when in actual fact it wasn't really doing that much to begin with. And Genesis is that nerdy kid who thinks he's down with all the popular kids and he's so cool and he's awesome dude and he's going to be working with time travel, and it's just kind of a bit sad to watch. But Dark Fate is a cool movie. It positions this franchise now in an interesting direction to see how it can go into the future. You get new characters that you actually care about. Grace, Danny. The Rev 9 feels like a menacing villain. You aren't sure which characters are going to survive by the end of this film. Also, you get the return of Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor. Call it fan service, call it just trying to appease to the fandom, but this movie did what I want from a Terminator sequel. It progressed the story, it positioned it in a new direction, and it was just so damn cool. And of course, it goes without saying. I mean, anyone who knows me or has been watching these videos should have seen this coming.
Hey, hey!
Get down.
Terminator 2 Judgment Day is a masterpiece. It is, honest to God, one of the greatest films ever made. Giving you just a little bit of context behind when I watched Terminator 2 for the first time, it was my dad who introduced me to this. And he sat me down and he said, Luke, you are going to watch one of the best films of all time. I do just want to preface this. I think I was about 6, maybe 7 when I saw this for the first time. But what can I say? My dad raised me well. The movie is just awesome. It's kick-ass. It's hardcore action. The visual effects are ridiculous. And they still hold up to this day. The movie was made in 1991, and in 2019 now, they still look immaculate. It did exactly what a sequel should. It raised the stakes, it was bigger, and it was better. Arnold Schwarzenegger now was positioned as this hero. He was a Terminator who turned good. He was sent to protect John Connor. And you get fantastic moments of John and the Terminator bonding like a really bizarre father-son relationship forming. Linda Hamilton had one of the biggest transformations we've ever seen in cinema, going from the waitress constantly on the run to this badass woman now who is just destroying anything in her way. Honestly here, if I was trapped on a desert island and I was only allowed to watch one film, I'd probably choose Terminator 2. It is that rewatchable, that mind-blowing, that damn freaking good. And that is why it is my number one Terminator movie. Thanks for watching this episode of Ranked. Let me know what order you would put these films in the comments below. If you have enjoyed this video, please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. All the links to my social media accounts are in the description below. Many thanks for watching, guys, and I shall see you in the next video.